Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate you coming, and for those attending virtually, thank you to you as well. This is the last day for the Wild Drop Live. That doesn't mean you don't stop listening to the podcast. How's that? Oh yeah, that works now. Now I'll be a little bit more quiet because it will be very loud. As I was saying before, thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. For those attending virtually, thank you to you as well. Just because this is the last day of the live, that doesn't mean you will stop listening to the podcast. Obviously, we're on all platforms, and I'll remind you afterwards as well. Because this is the last day, I really want to give a huge round of applause and thank you to the audio team who have helped set this all up. Thank you very much. And of course, to Cole, our producer. He hates this so much because usually with us doing it in studio, he can edit that part out, but he can't today. So round of applause for Cole as well. Thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and get started with our guest for today, which is none other than Ben Riley. Thank you all so much.
All right. Mr. Young, pleasure
Mr.
to
Riley.
see you. Doesn't he look good? He's embraced the bow tie life.
Yeah, you know what's actually
Proud
funny
of you,
about
Jake.
that is after my conversation about Seed to Seal, Ben was like, well done, very great. However, you should grow up and become an adult and actually wear a real bow tie. This is a clip-on, I won't lie. But, you know, as you probably don't realize, I'm a little bit more busy than Ben Riley is, so I don't have time to tie my tie or anything
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Young Living is what it is today because of great people and because of all of you listening today. Our first 30 years have been possible because of each one of you. Now, for our last live show at convention, let's take some time to celebrate each other and create the right mindset moving forward with wellness, purpose, and abundance so that Young Living continues to be excellent for the next 30, 50, 100, and so on years. Hello and welcome to this special edition, live edition of Young Living's podcast, The Wild Drop. My name, of course, is Jacob Young, your host. Young Living is a world leader in producing and distributing premium essential oils, and this podcast will provide you with drops of information about Young Living, including stories, history, product information, lots of little fun facts, and even more. As many of you know, Ben Riley is the president of Young Living and a very busy, somewhat man around this time of year. Ben, how are you holding up on this beautiful Friday? Your closing speech was great and wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I'm great, first of all. I know I can probably speak for all of you that convention is, in many ways, physically exhausting and spiritually exhilarating. So I love it because as much as it's, they're long days, you don't get as much sleep as you might like, but ultimately at the end of the week, I feel like I could fly home. Like it's just like literally fly home because it's so just invigorating for me. Being around you just lifts my spirits and reminds me why I love what I do. So yeah, I'm good. How are you? I mean, it's reasonably busy for you too, Jacob Young. I mean, he jousts, he sings, he dances, and he speaks. He's a man of many, many talents. So
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I couldn't have said it any better than Ben. That's honestly the worst part about speaking after Ben is there's not really a way to do it any better. So I definitely don't feel jealous for anybody that has to speak after Ben, but been doing great. Very same as far as it is exhausting in a way, but it's exhausting in such a great way too. The energy and the spirit that you provide and seeing all of you here so passionate with purpose and just wanting to continue this mission and to share your passion with everybody else and just this is why we do it, to have you all together to celebrate our successes, our losses, our failures, whatever it may be together as a family as we should. So thank you all so much for doing that. And before we can forge ahead, we've really been celebrating these last 30 years. But let's quickly look back. And Ben, what I want to get to is what are some parts of Young Living that you have seen change and possibly stay the same since you were first with us back in the 90s?
let's start with, change. You've changed a lot, actually. Right? Sincerely, and since this can't be edited, I'm so impressed with Jacob. Like, I really love working with Jacob. I knew Jacob when he was a twerp, a teenager, and, like we were all teenagers once. We're usually not always our very, very best when our brain hasn't fully developed. But I'm really impressed with the man that Jacob's becoming. And it's, if you think about it, it's really hard. If you were Jacob, to be born into this family and the expectation of who your mom and dad are, and the expectation we all have for this business and him as one of the standard bearers of it. And so, I feel a lot for Jacob, and at the same time, I feel like those challenges can either break or make someone, and I feel like they're really making Jake into the man he's becoming. So, I'm just like, I look at you, Jacob, and I'm really optimistic about our future because of who you're becoming, and I'm really grateful for that. There are labels have changed. We talked about that one. It's fun to go back and look at the old labels, but thank goodness we have new ones that are more modern, and I think just feel more attractive to the newer audiences we're looking to bring. Thieves most recently, and every one of these rebrands is really hard at Young Living because there's so much passion behind our product, and as Ren talked about, so much of Gary and Mary in the brand. And at the same time, we realized that we all found Young Living at one point and saw something we liked, and we kind of fell in love with. And for the Gen Zs and the Gen Alpha, the upcoming generations, we have to be able to attract them as well. And different things are going to resonate with them than what resonated with us. And we, I think, as Oilers, have to be willing and self-aware enough to say, it's not about me anymore. It's about you. It's about you that I need to help find and identify the next Young Living brand partner or customer in my community. So I love that we're embracing that, and you've seen that progress through the years, which I think is really, really powerful. I think I talked before about how we've changed the way we share. The message has stayed the same, so it's interesting when you look at it. I think back to the missing link and what was the core message there is still the same. It's trying to show people the missing link in their lives, in their wellness, in being proactive and empowered in living a healthier life. And there's one thing Gary was an educator, right? He loved to just teach. And at the end of the day, I think one of the things that was really impressive about Gary and Mary is they would work a full week in the office doing the corporate work, and then they'd go out in the field and do the field work. And he would do that weeks at a time because he knew that educating was so important. And the way we do reach people has changed. And I think Lisa Black mentioned this in the Facebook post that I shared, but I think it's really powerful and it's worth restating, which is we need to meet customers where they're at. We can't expect them to come to us, right? Where are they? And let's go to them. Let's be courteous enough to take it to them in a way that's easy for them to digest. So those are some of the things that have really changed. The mission's never changed. I think those values. One of the things that I'm so impressed by is that our blends are the same. Our blends are the same 30 years later. Just the fact that Gary figured that out so early on, and most products do not have a 30-year life cycle. Our blends, I don't know, they might have an infinite life cycle. It's one of the very few products I've seen that do that. And the blends that I loved 26 years ago when I first was introduced to it, they're still the blends I love. I use RC every day. I used it every day back then. Panaway's one I can't live without. Valor, I wear that every single day. These blends that I love and you love as well, they're the same, and they've been the same ever since, and they're power blends. So there's greatness there that I think has continued to carry us, and at the same time, we're now bringing great new products. And you look at Deep Spectra and that innovation, and the way we're going to be able to do even more for people's wellness because of that technology is incredibly exciting. So it's kind of fun to see the things that are the same, and I think, to be honest, will always be the same. I think the mission's always going to be the same. I don't see that changing. And at the same time, I think how we fulfill that mission can evolve over time, and we have to move with the times.
Yes, absolutely. Which perfectly leads us into the next question that I have. With this being a new era, new age, this digital age, how is Young Living trying to help support and guide those people into this new digital age that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think I've seen more disruption in the way we share, and to be honest, in commerce in general in the last 5 years than I've seen in the last 30. And that's really challenging because we have to be able to move to where those opportunities are. One of the things that I think about all the time is how much of what we're seeing is just this crazy ebb and flow that happened during the pandemic, and how much of this is a permanent shift in consumer behavior and where we need to move as an organization. And I think there's a bit of both, to be honest. So you heard us talk about, first of all, we need to unify ourselves on a single technology platform. We're really good at oils. We're not great at technology. right? And I think being self-aware enough and to say, these are things we do well, let's focus on those things we do well, and then let's figure out creative ways to do the other things great, even if it's not necessarily us. So looking at other solutions on the market that do these things really, really well, there are a lot of creative ways that people are sharing through technology today. And we can adopt some of those tools, and instead of trying to feel like we're always like creating it, we can say, oh, there's a little fire over there. Let's bring some fuel to that fire, right? Let's bring that to you and let you leverage it. The other thing I find that's really powerful is the way you are learning to share. That's always the way it's been. I can't figure out the best way to share as well as you can because you're sleeping, drinking, and breathing it. And the best thing we can do is listen, watch, and try to move as quickly as we can to the opportunities that you're showing us. Some of those things, like with the rise of affiliate marketing, what we're seeing is that people are looking on social media and digital tools and e-commerce to get recommendations more than they used to. So that means we need to show up there a little bit better. As a business, one thing I want to do is figure out how do we do a better job of connecting people who want oils with you, right? Can we step in and facilitate that connection a little bit more elegantly? I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think that's really where a lot of the marketplace is going. And at the same time, as much as we talk about technology, I still don't think there's anything that replaces this, you know, like being together and connecting and feeling each other's hearts. That doesn't really work through technology the same way. And sitting down at your kitchen table is still important. As much as you might be able to attract people through social media or different digital tools, I still think you have to create community, and community works in person a lot better than it does online. And so I think finding both the new opportunities as our business continues to evolve and grow, and especially Gen Zs, where are they? Well, they're on TikTok, right? They're on Snap. We need to figure out how to be there in our own ways. And at the same time, we can't lose sight of the good old-fashioned community and connection that really is the magic sauce at Young Living. So I think there's a beautiful way to bring those together. We see you do it all the time. And so I think it's following your lead in many cases and making sure that we are bringing to you tools that work, help you connect with those customers, and trust that you're going to do the community building and the sharing and the educating that you do so beautifully.
Yeah. And with all that you've shared, there's obviously going to have to be a lot of innovation that comes into play. And what I love so much is one thing that my dad shared about that Ren kind of reiterated today was that if you don't innovate and evolve and adapt, you become irrelevant. People no longer feel like we're continuing forward or anything like that. And that's why I was so excited and hesitant with the Thieves rebrand, is because it was already so beautiful and so perfect in a way, but at the same time, how do we kind of share with people that, look, we're moving forward, right? And I know some people may not like it, and that's fine. There's a lot of design of my dad's that I look back at, and I'm like, yeah, that one wasn't too great, but I really like this one. But my dad never saw it that way, as like, oh, that one was a failure, because he saw it more as like what I shared about, where it was a teaching lesson, a learning lesson from him. And so he would just go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, this is what we can revise, and this is what we can refix for the future. But he was always looking for what's next and how to continue forward, whether it really moved him forward or maybe took him a few steps back, whatever it may be. But in a way, it was such a lesson for him.
Yeah, and Jacob's not going to toot his horn here, so I will. He's really doing that work. And it's incredibly important because Jacob is Jacob Young. It has to be a Young to do that work, right? Like, it's at the end of the day, this heritage, this legacy is the Young family's heritage and legacy. I get to be a bit of a steward of that. But ultimately, the Young family have to see themselves in this brand too. It's got to be their brand, in as much as it's got to be your brand also. And so I really appreciate, Jacob, that you're having those conversations, and Ren talked about how hard that is. And at the same time, Jacob knows that we need to innovate and continue to meet people where they're at. And that does mean evolution over time. And it's been really, really heartwarming to see the legacy as it's represented by Mary and the future as it's represented by Jacob. And they have these discussions where they kind of like wrestle it out together. And it's not always easy.
Nor is it pretty.
It's not always easy. It's not always pretty. I mean, well, you can imagine, right? You can imagine what Mary feels, and so much tie to the history of this company. A logo's not just a logo. It's memories, it's people,
There's a lot that goes into it, and I want to continue on with some of the other questions that I have, but to quickly kind of touch on how difficult this was for us. And I know Ren talked a little bit about it, but the behind the scenes and what makes this so difficult is, like I said, we want to show that there's an evolution, that there's progression within the company. but at the same time, how do you take something away from the legacy? And the original Thieves design was hand-drawn by my mother and father and then digitized. And so when we first sat down and started looking at how do we progress this, the first question I had was, I can't ruin or go to my mother and say, hey, what you designed and drew with dad, all these years ago is not good enough. We need to do something better. That was like the hardest thing to sit down with my mom, and it wasn't that it was that way, but how can we make it even better or something that can show evolution, like I said? And it was a really tough and hard conversation. And so the hardest part that Ren and all the team has and all of us is how do we tie in legacy with future at the exact same time while moving forward and not almost in a way like going back? And so, like I said, there was many sleepless nights, many conversations, and I think in a way we landed in a really, really good spot where it's just perfect and simplistic and beautiful and still speaks to legacy at the exact same time, because we obviously want all of you to enjoy it as well, too. So there's a lot of thought process that goes into it. And what I was getting at before is, why is this kind of innovation so important to a company, Ben?
I mean, you said it, right? I don't think I could say any more than you either innovate or you become irrelevant. I don't want to become irrelevant. If we don't show up well in this space, someone else will. And what a shame that would be, because we're the best at it. And I feel like, that's not acceptable to you, Jacob. It's not acceptable to me. We need to continue to carry this business forward. And that means we need to do change even if it's uncomfortable. We talked specifically about making a shift because we have to continue to shift. As soon as we stop moving, motion and movement is life for your body and for a company. So we've got to keep moving. We can never get complacent. We can never feel like we're good enough or that we're going to stay right here because we're comfortable. And I said it in my talk, but if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So we got to keep moving, we got to keep pushing those boundaries. Like you say, that's what your dad did, and we learned that from him.
Sometimes he went off the cliff a little too far, but
but he was never taking up too much space.
No, absolutely
right?
not.
He'd go off the cliff before it'd take up too much space.
Obviously, and I'd love to put you on stage and in front of the lights with this next question for everybody. I'm glad I'm not the one answering this question. But obviously, some products that we love come and go. And sometimes they go away for a little bit and then they come back. With that being said, how do we try and keep the product line, which is so many products, over 700 products, how do we keep that fresh? How do we keep the excitement going?
Oh, this one's a tough one, and I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to try to be as brief as I can. It's not my strongest suit, so bear with me. Managing product well is our work on the corporate side. And what that means is making sure you have the right product at the right place at the right price. Right? That's what our job is, to make sure we're providing that for you, that ultimately you can get then to a customer and to a family. And there's a lot that goes behind the scenes that you don't really know. One of those things is, in order for us to do that, I think about product as opportunity. Any business can only put so much of its resource into product. And anytime that we make a product that then sits on a shelf for a year or 2 or 3 is actually a really big missed opportunity, because that could be in a product that's moving faster. And if we're out of Ningxia Red because we have another product that's sitting on a shelf that's not moving, that's a big mistake for us, because we're not giving you a product that's really moving fast and working hard for your business. I've given the statistic, and we've improved this over time, but it used to be that 17% of our products drove 95% of our OGV. Say that again, 17% of our total products drove 95% of your OGV. And you think about that opportunity. If I were to then, and it's too extreme to say, well, let's get rid of everything else, because that's not really who we are. However, there's a lot of opportunity in saying, how can we make sure that we really invest, not just in resource of having the product, but also really strong positioning and marketing and tools for you to be able to grow that? Because those 17% of products are working really hard. And if we were to take all that focus and put it on those 17%, we could make those products work even harder for you. And making up that 5% difference would actually be quite simple. And so I think managing that product life cycle is really important. It's hard, because if one person has a product they love, they have a hard time letting go, right? And so we have to also do a good job of making sure, first of all, we communicate well so you know what this product life cycle looks like. And if you desperately need a product, you can buy as much as you can. And then also make sure you know that we are always innovating and bringing you improvements. We wouldn't replace a product that has a place if we couldn't give you something better, right? And so you trust us that we're going to do our best to make sure we're bringing you the very, very best. If we have a product that's 20 years old, there's a lot of things we've learned in 20 years. We probably need to update it. Blends are an exception. There are a few exceptions to that, but there are a lot of opportunities to be better. And so not being complacent. I gave the example of my sport coat problem on stage. You have to make space. You always have to make space. The answer can't be, I'll just get a bigger closet all the time. At some point, that's not sustainable. Your kids will be living outside, right? Which I thought about, but my wife said no. So we got to make space for opportunity. And you have to realize that when you let something go, you create space for new and for growth, for opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And a lot of you that submitted your questions, a lot of them were answered. But I've had my chance to be able to ask you some questions, and we still have 2 questions from Q&A that were not answered. The rest were answered, so I guess we did a good job on that end with questions. We're going to quickly answer these 2 questions, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So, first question being, do you have any idea on when we will see more clinical studies proving what we already know about the power of these essential oils?
I like Jacob said quick. That was a message to me. I'll try to be quick. I think clinical studies are really powerful. We've known about the powers of essential oils for years. We're now proving it in a lab. So I think you're going to see you're going to see continued investment in clinical studies. In general, I think we should focus on the things that are unique to us. Things like lavender research and others are abundantly available if you search for them. So we're going to continue to research. I think on blends, we're obviously going to be doing a lot of clinicals with Deep Spectra because we're learning about it too, and that's how we learn. But yes, we'll continue to do a lot of clinical studies, and I think that's going to be an ongoing and increased emphasis for us in our business. One thing I think I would also note is we need to learn how to use these really well. We can't just give it to you. It's kind of silly. We can run a double-blind, validated scientific clinical study, but I cannot put on my website, Ningxia Red, here's our clinical trial, right? You have to go get it from PubMed or any number of sites that carry these scientific studies. So finding ways to connect those dots a little bit better, I think, is a big opportunity for us. Not only do we need to do the studies, which we'll continue to do, but we need to know how to use them in our business as well.
Absolutely. And then the very last one, in a nutshell, quick, what is the best way to explain to a new customer what makes our essential oils so different than any others? Very quick, Ben, please. 10.
We're
9.
the best. We're the original. Nobody has passion about oils like we have. Nobody has passion about oils like we have. Are you kidding me? Who has farms? Who distills? Who brings people to let them be a part of that process? Who started their business by planting seeds in the ground like your dad? Right? Who? Show me another. You show me another and I'll listen. Until then, you know what they are? They're all copycats. And bless them, because imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Thank you for realizing that we have something that's amazing. Don't you dare try to pretend like you're better than we are. Like, that's silly. So I think you know it. You're going to see it tomorrow at the Mount Nebo farm. So that's my nutshell.
In the world of copycats, it feels great to be the original.
Amen.
All right, well, thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and record the outro, so when this goes out, it will sound exactly the same.